somehow the end of the month already, so it's time for us to sit down and talk about all the books we read. You had a good reading month.
It was solid. This is what I should be reading every month, and it just never happens.
I barely hit like 5.
That's fine.
I mean, it is fine, but for my personal goals, it's not. This month I was a little busy is all.
I wasn't, so that's why I read so many. But okay, we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into the books. The first book I read this month changed my life. And yes, that sounds dramatic, but this was a 5-star read for me, and it was If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. This is the epitome of sad reads. Every now and then you come across a book that just really strikes a chord with you, and that was this book for me. I rarely ever find books that I want to tab, and actually after I read the entire book, I went back because there were so many amazing quotes and tabbed all the heartbreaking, like, emotional ones. This is a tragic love story, a YA contemporary, and we are following Autumn throughout all 4 years of high school. She has a childhood best friend named Finn, and we see that they have a falling out just because they're getting older and they're growing apart. And it's very much just a right person, wrong time kind of book, which are always so heartbreaking. It's one of those things where they just keep missing each other. So good. I highly recommend if you want a good cry. If you're not prepared to cry, I wouldn't even pick it up. This author is coming out with a companion novel later this year, and it's going to be the whole book in Finn's perspective. I love that she's doing that. I don't think I'm gonna read it because I don't want to go through all of this again. This came out 10 years ago and it's still pulling its weight. I highly recommend if you haven't read it yet. I'm sure everyone has, but if you haven't, go pick it up.
The first one I read in March was Mary Jane by Jessica Anya Blau. This one, I knew it was gonna be good, and it was good. I don't know if you would consider this a historical fiction because it was set in the 1970s. I just think that time period was so fun, so different, and I feel like that's kind of why I really enjoyed this. Basically, we were following a 14-year-old named Mary Jane, and she's just kind of being introduced to this like crazy lifestyle of like drugs and alcohol and partying, and her family is very conservative. She doesn't even know what any of that really is. So it is like a YA story, but it's also coming of age because we're watching her experience this crazy rock star lifestyle. This was such a great coming of age story. I really adored the found family. Anytime there's a found family, I know I'm just gonna love it even more, and I definitely did with this one. I will say though, the ending was a little bit rushed, and I didn't love that. I just felt like everything kind of closed off in a way that was too easy, a little bit unrealistic. But it was a short novel, and I did appreciate that. So obviously, like with a short novel, things are going to be wrapped up a little quick, but it was still a really good story. And also on the audiobook, towards the very end, there is like a song that they play that's in the book, so you get to hear like the actual song, and I thought that was really cool too. I did give this a 4.5 stars, so I really did like it.
That sounds good.
I want you to read it. I think you
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the fact that this is like the author's picture,
Like a selfie?
a selfie, I love her for that. Come on.
I finally read Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This is a collection of short stories that takes place in a coffee shop in Japan, and this coffee shop is said to allow people to travel back in time. Everyone said this book was both incredibly beautiful and sad, and everyone was right. I really did enjoy each of the short stories, and I like that because they all take place at this coffee shop, we have the people who work there as reoccurring characters. Overall, I thought it was such a unique concept, and it read so fast it kept you engaged. I know a lot of people though said that some of the stories tended to drag or they felt like it was repetitive. I didn't have that issue with them, so I gave it a 4-star. They do have other books in this series, so I do want to pick those up as well and read them. But overall, I just thought it was really beautiful.
The next one I read was The Wife Upstairs by Rachel Hawkins. This one was one of my blind TBR book picks. With the other books that I've picked on the TBR card, I have really enjoyed them. So, you know, I kind of thought that was going to be the trend with all of them, but that did not happen with this one. This just wasn't for me. I think I gave this one a 2.5, trying to be generous. All of the characters were super unlikable. Like, there was not one character that I was vibing with, that I was into, that I was rooting for. I didn't like anybody in this story, and I thought the twist in the story was very obvious from the beginning. I thought it was very clear what was going to happen. I think there was red flags all all over the place, and I hate when like a main character can't see those red flags. Even sometimes when I can guess the plot twist, I'm still interested in the writing. I still want to know how everything's going to go down. I didn't care to see how it was going to end. I'm actually shocked that I didn't like this because I really did love The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling, who is Rachel Hawkins. And I can tell in this book, this feels like it was a romance author trying to write a mystery thriller, and there was like too much cringy romance in there that wasn't needed. I hate when the adult characters act like children. Like, it's one of my least favorite things to ever read about. I just can't stand it. So 2.5.
The next book is the only themed book I read for March, and it is We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lange. The only reason I say themed is because of St. Patrick's Day, and this was about an Irish family, but that's about it. We start off with a girl named Sunday. She has moved away and has been living on her own for a while. An accident has her returning back home, and she's having to face everything she left behind 10 years ago. I thought it was super entertaining. We are in third person, so we're able to follow each one of the family members and deep dive into their stories. The whole time we're learning about family secrets, the dynamic between all of them, and what happened 10 years ago that drove Sunday away. Really solid read for this month. I gave it a 3.5. I highly recommend if you're looking for a good family drama. And I know this one's always on BookOutlet, so definitely check it out. They always have them in stock. I thought this was a perfect short read for March, so I really liked it.
I am still continuing with the Shatter Me series, so I did read the mini novella. I think it was like 2.5 before the third book. It's called Fracture Me. I really think the purpose of this novella was to make sure that we didn't like Adam. I keep comparing these characters to Tamlin and Rhys, so they were trying to make sure that we do not like Tamlin, aka Adam, and it worked. I mean, this book, I was so tired of him, so done with him, which is crazy because the whole time through this series, I didn't really mind him. Like, I couldn't see what was so bad about him. I finished this one and I'm done. Like, we're done. I'm over him. So I am still reading Ignite Me, but there are a few more days left in March. We're kind of recording this a little early, but I do think I will finish this before March is over. The series is going so good right now. I'm pretty sure the author wanted to stop at this third book, but I know like years later she finally picked up and kept going with the series. So I'm really interested to see like how she ended this and how it was still possible to continue with it. But yeah, it's going really good. Kenji is still one of my favorite freaking characters ever. He is the love of my life. I actually think that Juliet should be with Kenji, so.
Okay. Up next, I have Seventh Circle by Tate James. This one's always kind of hard to explain because it's book one in a spin-off series that I read last year. This is a contemporary new adult reverse harem series. I always really like these. Reverse harem just means that she has more than one love interest and she doesn't have to pick one to have her happily ever after. No, we'd love to see it. In this series, we are following a different gang in the same town, so there's a new bad guy, a new mystery. I did really enjoy this one as well. Something about this author's writing just always keeps me entertained. If you do want to read this though, I would highly recommend reading the Madison Kate series first. It's not absolutely necessary, but this will make so much more sense if you read that first. And I felt like with that one, it got me hooked right away. This one had a little bit of a slower start, but since I know this town and these characters, I was able to follow through with it. But overall, love this author. I'm gonna continue reading her. It's not labeled a dark romance, but it's definitely a darker romance. I did give it a 4-star, and now I want to buy the rest of the series. Nikki gifted me this one, so thank you again. I do look forward to continuing the series.
The next one I read was Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. I did read this one in our reading vlog this month, and I really enjoyed this one. This was definitely a unique psychological mystery. I was definitely hooked from the beginning, and I thought it was interesting how the readers kind of know exactly what has happened very early on, and we're just watching the main character and waiting for her to kind of piece everything together. I thought that was an interesting take on it. I don't think I've ever really read anything like that. The chapters do go back and forth from then and now, and we do get to follow multiple POVs. I did talk a lot about it over on our reading blog, so I don't want to sound too repetitive, but I definitely recommend this one. I think I gave this one a 4 stars. I think the back kind of spoils it. That's why I don't like reading summaries, so I would recommend not even reading the back, just going into it completely blind, and I think you'll have a good time with it. I definitely want to read more Lisa Jewell books. I know they have a lot of her books on BookOutlet, so I'm sure I will be buying some more.
My next book, I think is kind of random because I did not have it on my monthly TBR. I ended up reading it because I saw the free ebook on the Kindle app that I have on my phone, and it was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. My mom ended up owning the physical copy, so I have it here today. Thank you, Mom. But I did read the ebook. I'm one of the people who have always been obsessed with the Harry Potter movies. I watched them growing up, and I had never read the books. I was always kind of intimidated because I know the world is so grand and involved that I thought the books would just be way too wordy for me to understand. But it's YA, and I honestly was not expecting to love the book as much as I did. It read so fast. I think also, since I know the movies, I could picture everything in this book perfectly. I also like that we could see a lot more detail in things that we don't get in the movies. So there's like characters and scenes that we get more in depth in, and I just really love that. Another thing, this made me appreciate the adaptations a lot more too, because a lot of the dialogue is left exactly the same. I'm not always expecting that because with a lot of adaptations, they change so much. The movies, I feel like, are pretty much as spot on as they could be. Overall, just as amazing and magical. After this one, I immediately picked up Chamber of Secrets, and I read that ebook as well. I don't have that physical copy. Chamber of Secrets is probably my most watched movie out of all of them. I absolutely love it. I know it like the back of my hand, and the book did not disappoint. Once I can find secondhand copies of the entire set, I want to get them all because I don't want to pay J.K. Rowling.
The second one I read in that reading blog was The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. This one is very loved, and rightfully so. This was definitely such a fun and sweet rom-com. There was fake dating, forced proximity, celebrity romance, and even family drama that kept me entertained throughout the whole book. This story is a bodyguard romance, and we actually have the woman being the bodyguard to the celebrity man, which I thought was so fun and different. And they end up having to fake date so the guy's family doesn't find out that he needs a bodyguard. Fake dating is one of my favorite tropes ever, and they did it really well in this book. I was kind of shocked because, like I said in the reading blog, traditionally when you have these cartoon characters, it's pretty smutty, and there was no smut scenes in this, but I still really did enjoy the story. So I would definitely recommend this one if you're looking for that slow burn romance with no smut in it. And even if you're not, just know that it's not coming.
There's no smut.
There's no smut. Another one that I did go into a lot more detail in on our reading blog, so.
Speaking of that reading blog, the two that I read during it was Promises and Pomegranates by Sav R. Miller and Gallant by V.E. Schwab. Promises and Pomegranates was a dark romance inspired by Hades and Persephone. I did not really love it. I gave it a 2.5, maybe it was a 2. I was kind of just really disappointed, but I know this is a whole series, and some of you guys told me to keep reading because they get better, so I might do that. As of now, I'm in no rush. Luckily, the second book I read, Gallant, I absolutely loved. It's a YA fantasy-esque story that's spooky, and it takes place in a haunted house. I gave it 4 stars. It was so good. This was my first V. Schwab, so I want to read more of her now. And then lastly, I have Electric Idol by Katie Robert. This was my TBR blind book pick. This is book 2 in the Dark Olympus series. I didn't love book 1, Neon Gods. I wasn't going to read the rest until we found this in the little free library, and I think this book is going to make me want to read the rest of the series. This whole series is inspired by Greek mythology. We're in a modern day Olympus, which I do love. And in this one, we're following Psyche and Eros. I kind of just liked this couple a lot more. I thought the romance felt a lot more natural. We had marriage for convenience, a little bit of fake dating. It was super steamy and charming. I want to pick up the next books because they're following the 4 sisters, and they already set up who our next couple is going to be, and I desperately need to know what's gonna happen. So I'm really happy that I ended up putting it on that cart. Like you said, pretty much all the ones we've picked so far have been pretty good. So I gave this one a 3.75, I think, but that's high for romance for me, you guys. I promise I liked it.
So that was all of the books that we read in March. A good reading month for you, a decent one for me, but I think my favorite was definitely Mary Jane. So good, so solid, fun, entertaining, shocking,
fresh.
All the things. Fresh. This was just a good time, so I'm gonna go with Mary Jane.
I think mine's a tie between Gallant and If He Had Been With Me. Both so good, but I can't believe I have another 5-star under my belt. Who would have thought?
Not me. That's pretty much it for today's video. So make sure you comment down below and let us know what your favorite read of March was.
Up next, we'll have our April TBR video so you can see all the books we plan to read next month. But until then, make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.
Ooh, we look so...
Oh wow, we look
fancy.
like we're going to a brunch.
I'm feeling
good.
some like French toast sticks.
Ooh, sticks? Leave that whole.
What?
I want the whole thing.
No, I want like the little sticks.
Okay. I'm thinking like a Belgian waffle. Some breakfast potatoes.
Good. So while I was reading this one, I did get my Kindle, so I started reading it on Kindle. So, I don't know, this took my Kindle virginity.
Oh, God. Writing just always keeps me entertained. I just really, why did you say really, really? And I actually really, really like this one. Really, really again. It was super steamy and charming. I just really, oh my God, again. I really, really enjoy.
I think my favorite was definitely Mary Jane. Fun, entertaining, shocking,
Fresh.
all the things. Fresh, historical fiction, drugs, alcohol, partying.
Oh my God.
So that was all of the books that we read in March. A good reading month for you. A decent one for me, but I will get it next month.
Get it.
Get it, girl. Jeez.
Stories are more of a tragic, beautiful type of side and not just that kind of sad, you know?